Hey, welcome to One Awesome Autistic. We're on the bonus videos still, and video 3 means we are now reviewing episode 3 of Love on the Spectrum. I originally wrote out the script for this episode that was kind of the same as the previous two, where I go through what happens in the show and offer my opinion on the situations. The show started to get a little bit repetitive in what it is showing, so I don't want to just keep talking about the same things over and over again. There's two major things that happen in this episode that I really want to talk about. Bear in mind, this is all my opinion, my point of view of how I am interpreting what happens in these episodes. You might agree with me, you might not, and that's completely fine. The dates we see in this episode are Maddie and Mark. Awkward date, Mark is info dumping. We see Kelvin and Jessica. Awkward date because of they have different speech patterns, they don't understand each other very well, and I'm also going to talk about in a minute what is super problematic about their date. And we have Maddie and Severin, another awkward date, also we're led to believe, and that's the second thing that I want to talk about in this episode. We're now seeing a clear narrative that this program wants to really drive home and hammer it down our throats that autistic people are awkward in social situations. And look at how awkward they are, and look at how cringy this is, and etc. This is just what we're being shown constantly. It's not completely correct. Yes, there are some autistic people who find these sorts of situations awkward, and you will see a lot of looking around, silence, awkwardness, not knowing what to say. Yes, a lot of autistic people are like that, but there are also a lot of autistic people who are not like that. Some autistic people feel awkward in social situations, but we do a thing called masking, and we don't appear to be awkward, and we just look like everybody else having a conversation. There are some autistic people that really enjoy social interactions and kind of thrive on those, really enjoy being around people. But we're not seeing any of those people, or the show is edited so that we are not seeing that side of these autistic people. And I don't think that's necessarily right. If you're going to represent autistic people, then represent some more autistic people. Autistic people who are varyingly different from each other. We get the point now that yes, a lot of autistic people are awkward in social situations. Me personally, I'm 50-50 with it. In some, I'm awkward, but I can mask and come across as a completely different person. I understand what it is like and how it feels to be in a social situation that is very, very uncomfortable. We get the point now. Let's move on to something else. Show us something different. The thing about it as well is the show is now willing to show us very, very problematic situations to get this point across. And this is apparent in Kelvin and Jessica's date. When the date first starts, it's all going pretty much fine. It might not necessarily be going how you would think a traditional date would go. They're talking and they're interacting and things like that. But it soon starts to go downhill. They both speak a little bit differently from each other. They both have slightly different speech patterns. There's a turn when then Jessica appears to just become blatantly nasty towards Kelvin. And I don't know if she's doing this intentionally or not, or whether she's aware of what she's saying, or if she has ever been like this before. We know nothing about Jessica. We're just shown this one interaction with Kelvin, and it becomes super, super problematic, and I don't know if it should have been shown by the show or not. Actually, I lie. This should not have been shown by the program at all. They could have handled this very, very differently. A conversation is never, ever, ever going to go well when somebody starts it with, "I'm not being racist, but." I do feel like it's not good to show those types of conversations in a reality show like this. He openly mocks Kelvin for the way that he talks because he's Chinese, so he doesn't talk with a fluent English or Australian accent. So what if he does or he doesn't? There's no need to mock him about it. That is just blatantly wrong. This is what I feel anyway. I feel like that is blatantly wrong. We've seen in the previous episode that there is obviously people behind the cameras that are there for the well-being of the people taking part in the show. Why did nobody at some point stop Jessica and pull her to a side and say something? Why did they not talk to Kelvin and make sure he's okay and that he's not being hurt by anything said to him? Why was this conversation just not completely stopped and just this whole scenario scrapped at this point? I don't know, it's beyond me. They obviously wanted to keep filming for a reason, and it goes along with this whole trying to show autistic people as being super awkward. Look at how we all say terrible things and we don't mean to, and we don't realise what we're saying. You don't know whether Jessica realises what she's saying or not. I have a little small feeling that she does, because she started the conversation with "I'm not being racist," but she knows that she's going to say something that may come across as racist, and she's trying to cover her tracks. And as far as the show's concerned, Kelvin doesn't seem to be bothered by it, and well, Jessica's autistic, so it's fine. Being autistic is not an excuse for being a crappy person. There are crappy people who aren't autistic. It's nothing to do with the fact that she's being autistic, that she's being crappy. Being crappy because she's crappy. That's basically what it comes across to me. And I don't know Jessica. I don't know whether she is a crappy person or not. I don't know whether she's been put up to saying this or not. I don't know what's happening behind the scenes. I can only go off what the programme has decided to show me as a viewer, and they're showing me Jessica's a crappy person. This whole scenario as a viewer is putting me off wanting to watch any more of the show. As an autistic person, it's bordering on offensive. And the second large problematic thing for me is how they're editing it to show, look, all autistic people are awkward and we're cringy and all this. Because of the way they edited Maddie and Severin's date, I feel like there is a lot more that happened there that we weren't shown. The majority of the date, as much as we're not shown a lot of it, is all awkward silences and people trying to think of something to say until they get talking about their kind of like career goals, and Severin talks about his music and he plays Skyrim theme on the piano and he plays it beautifully, and the fact that he's self-taught is amazing. It just goes to show that when we have a special interest that we just dive into, how we can turn that into a positive and a potential career. Quite awkwardly, obviously, Severin asked Maddie on a second date, and from what I've seen, I thought Maddie was going to say no, because we've seen her being really truthful when she told Mark that she didn't have any romantic feelings towards him, she just wanted to be friends. I don't believe that she would have said yes to a date if she didn't want to go on one. But she says yes to the date, and then when she's outside talking to her parents on the phone, talking about the date completely different to what I saw it as. She was saying about how well she got on with him, like she got on with him a lot better than she did Mark, even though she went on 2 dates with Mark. Why didn't they show us that date? I want to see that date. I want to see the first date between Maddie and Severin, where they're actually getting along throughout the whole day, and cut out the awkwardness and show us this successful date that they actually had. But we don't really see any of that. And why don't we see any of that? Well, because that doesn't fit into the programme wanting to show us how autistic people cannot in any way do social interactions successfully. It's something we fail at, and this is what we're going to show, and this is the narrative we're going with, and anything that contradicts that, well, we're just not going to show it. I want to see every aspect of something. I want to see the actual complexities that I know being autistic is like. We're also only still being shown dates between 2 autistic people. Now, I'm pretty sure there are autistic people out there, and possibly autistic people in the show, who would be fine with going on a date with a non-autistic person. We're not being shown that at all. I want to see what the difference is between seeing an autistic and autistic person date and an autistic person and non-autistic person date. How do they differ? What do they look like in comparison to each other? That would be more interesting to me than just continually seeing the same scenario repeated between two autistic people. But I suppose I'll have to watch the rest of the season and see where this goes and see if these things improve or whether they're just going to continue down this problematic road or not. But let's leave it on a more positive note, because Maddie said something that I am no doubt going to repeat and quote at some point. When asked about family, Maddie in a one-on-one interview says, family are like brownies, they're sweet but you can't avoid a few nuts. And we'll leave it at that, and I shall see you in the next video. Bye for now.